You guys want to see a really stupid power supply? This is a really stupid power supply. Well, that is, what's stupid about it? It's, otherwise the form factor, I guess, it's pretty much a normal power supply. We've got our 24 pin split into a 20+4. We've got, rather short, but it's here a dual daisy chained 6+2 times 2 GPU connector, and we've got our 4+4 pin EPS connector. So the wires are normal, except the power supply is this. This is the funniest thing I have ever seen. I love this because it's stupid. What is it? Well, this, surprisingly, is an EVGA 500 watt 80 plus gold power supply. I know. I bet you didn't know EVGA made one of these either. Now, some of you might be thinking, and no, as far as I know, this is not Flex ATX, which is a standard of power supply, but I believe this is not a Flex ATX unit. I believe it is much longer than a Flex unit would be. I believe a Flex unit ends about halfway through this, although I could be incorrect. It could just be a long Flex ATX. But what this is the size of roughly a single server U. If you know what that is, you know what that means. If not, that's fine. So this is a 500 watt power supply, non-modular rainbow cables. What is it for? Where did it come from? And why did EVGA make it? Well, this power supply is from EVGA's Hadron Mini ITX case. What is that? Well, if you don't know, I've linked it below on Amazon. It's a case that EVGA tried to make a good while ago, a couple of years ago, where they tried to make an ITX case even smaller by using a non-standard power supply. Typically, cases will use something like an SFX PSU, where they, instead of using a normal ATX one, they use a smaller PSU that is shorter and generally smaller. But EVGA thought they could cut down the height by making the PSU about half the size, well, height-wise, as a SFX power supply, but have the PSU going through the entire bottom of the chassis. Now, I personally believe EVGA failed magnificently at this because the case is probably the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Although I will link in the description below if you want to buy it. It's about $150, but it comes with one of these power supplies. And what would be a power supply video without testing the power supply? Now, I had to buy this on eBay for about $50 because I didn't want to buy the entire case for $150 just to get this power supply. Now, EVGA used to sell replacements for these for like $20. Now, if that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. You can look it up. It's still on their website, though it says out of stock permanently. It said it was $20, so I was like, whoa, $20? That can't be good. But that's the point. Let's set up a little sacrificial test bench. And by sacrificial, I mean I'm going to be using parts that, although I really would rather not, were I to fry/lose them, I wouldn't really be in a worse state than I was before. I'll just miss out on some, cooler videos in the future, like this ITX build with an i7 7700 and 16 gigs of DDR4. It's just a simple ITX motherboard. I thought it would be fitting because we're using what should be an ITX power supply. And for our graphics card, we're going to use this XFX R7700 Radeon 7700 series, like a 77 something, I don't know, but it's stupid. It doesn't even have external power, so just in case we're going to fry anything. But I'm just going to use it to test the PSU to make sure it works, and then down the line in a different video, we'll probably do a whole setup around this PSU. I had a plan for it, but it ended up being a little bigger than I thought. I ended up actually figuring out my problem with my ITX build, so I don't need this power supply, but I will be using it for a future build. Besides that, let's get this thing plugged into power so that we can ground it, and then we'll get our cables connected. Now, that short, tiny PCIe thing is because the end of the PSU is about right under where the cable management for the graphics card would be in their Hadron case, so that's why it's this length. It's a perfect fit. Now, for any build that I'm going to do, I'll have to keep that in mind. Besides that, we have ugly rainbow cables because EVGA is probably the laziest company that exists, because I think they know that they're kind of like the best PSU manufacturer, so why even bother trying to powder coat your cables or whatever it's called. Kind of annoying how lazy they are, but who cares? Let's get our 4+4 pin EPS connector. I am extremely worried because I've seen, everyone sees the horror story reviews, but this one had a, slight amount more than comfortable. And then we'll just slot in our, actually we don't even need a GPU. Why would I even put one in? we've got our favorite onboard graphics. Yay! We're going to plug that in. We're going to plug in our USB for all of our connectivity. And we're going to turn it on. Kind of scared that's going to start shooting fire. Let's that's what I feared. That fan. Now it's off. And the fan on our PC is on. I'm not going to touch it. Now I would like to flip it up to be like, hey, look, the fan's on. But I don't want to connect any traces on the back of the motherboard and fry it and myself in the process. Wow. It's quieter than I thought it was. You heard it when it started up, though. It was very loud. Nope, come back. Shoot. Thing is working. So, I mean, it's a working power supply. Our motherboard is on and working. So we're just going to, we got 16 gigs of RAM. And, yeah, so, I mean, this is kind of a video just showing it off. You know what I do, where I make a video about something, then use it in a video later and go, hey, check out this video. Now, people were complaining that this is very whiny and loud, and if you heard it at the start, you'll know that it is. Under load, this PSU most likely gets extremely loud and whiny. And why is that? Well, because it uses a very tiny, what I believe is 40 millimeters, but it may even be less, fan on the back, and when that spins up, it's not even spinning right now. And there's still some noise, so I'm guessing there's even an internal fan. But this back fan, when it spins up, it'll get loud and whiny. Because if you don't know, the smaller the fan, the whinier it'll be. And that's nothing you can't do anything about that except for make it spin slower, but then it's not really cooling. So you get the point. It is a whiny little power supply, but I'm guessing if I pair it with like a 300 watt system and don't put it under full load at any point, I think this will be really nice. But as is the point, I know this was a little short video, it's just kind of stupid, but I just want to test this power supply. Oh, you can't even see the screen. Well, it's on. Just know that. We're going to turn that off and unplug it. I just think this is such an interesting thing. I was looking, because it's such a stupid form factor. Now, I'm going to call it Flex ATX, even though technically I don't think it is. I think it's a bit too long. But Flex ATX in general, like this sort of style of PSU, just this more, giving more to the length, I would say, than the height, is such an interesting thing. It's such a cool concept, too, having a thin, like this power supply, or short. I don't really know technically what it would be, thin or short. It's just funny to me. And most of the companies that make them, FSP and Silverstone are the main makers that I know of that make Flex ATX power supplies. Like, if this was the whole length of the build, and then the height was only the height of an ITX motherboard, this could be a pretty epic build. So let me know what you want to see with this power supply in the future videos. That's just the point. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys kind of enjoyed. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.